Hi everyone, it's Tiffany, and I'm so excited to do a quick tutorial for you of my blue plaid blanket. This one is I made for my very first grandbaby. I can't believe this day has finally come. If you've been following me a long time, you know that I kind of just started crocheting in hopes to become a grandma, and it's finally here. I'm using Caron Simply Soft in light country blue and country blue and white. I use this color will be used in every row. I am carrying the yarn through every row. And I think if you're just gonna watch the video for the tutorial, I think at least having a copy of this graph that is printable and on our website will help you keep the counting straight. So what I've done is that if you read it from the bottom to the top in the rows, it kind of just copies this. This is the pattern repeat. This is one of these. So we've got 6 rows, 4 rows, 2 rows, and then this, it didn't print very well. It says 2 rows single crochet. That's this row there. Then back to 2 rows, 4 rows, and then 6 rows, but the graph repeats again to down here. So actually up here, what happens is that you'll get 12 rows in between, but it repeats from there. So I just was giving you a snapshot of the repeat. Okay, if you look at the stitches across, we've got 11, 6, and there was a typo on my graph. The graph on the website will have that fixed. 6, 4, and then just 2 of the dark blue, 4, back to 6. And then same thing. There actually is 22 stitches, but the pattern repeat ends at 11 stitches. And then you would start over again at the 11 stitches. So I did that so that the blanket will begin and end with 11 stitches, but you repeat this block over and over. Then that way you can make this blanket as wide as you would like. So my starting chain for the baby blanket size it's 22 times however many repeats that you want to do. So I'll have to get my calculator. I think mine was 134. All right, yes, sorry, I want to double check and make sure I'm saying this right. The pattern repeat is 22. So I multiplied 22 times 6, and that kind of is how many little blocks I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 2 ends were 6. And so the starting chain was 132 plus 2 for the turning chain. So you probably would want to multiply 22 times an even number if you wanted to make this bigger. So you would do times 8. That's probably the biggest that I would do it anyway. I think you'll get plenty of width for a throw. So anyway, okay, let's get started. All right, so one of the first things that you're going to want to do before you start is you need to make little balls of the darker shade of blue, because for the little 2 stitches that run vertical up the blanket. So about a baseball size was plenty of yarn for the the baby blanket size. For today, I'm just gonna do little samples. And my tip is to go ahead and place that into a plastic sack and have a chip clip handy. A clothespin works. This will help keep this section of the yarn slightly untangled. Then another tip that I do is I like to just snip the corner of the plastic bag, and then I'll reach in there. Shouldn't have clipped it first. I'm gonna go ahead and thread the end of it through the plastic sack, and then it just will come out that end. And this is one way to help keep this section of the yarn not tangled. All right, you'll start your blanket with, or this little swatch. I did go ahead and chain 22 times 2, so 44, and then I added 2, so 46 chains. And we will go ahead and start in the 3rd chain from the hook. And this is how you work an extended half double crochet. is you yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over again, pull through the first loop, and then yarn over and pull through 3. Okay, so one more time, yarn over, I'm inserting my hook under the top loop, yarn over and pull a loop back through, yarn over, pull through the first loop, and then pull through 3. So we want to make 11 in white for this first section. And I don't worry about introducing the light country blue on these very first stitches. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's 9, 10. Okay, now on this 11th stitch, I will work the very first part of it. Hold off right there. I'll go ahead and keep my white yarn to the front, and I'm going to grab my light country blue. Here we go. I just simply lay it over my hook and pull through. All right, now we're going to carry the white along with us while crocheting with the light blue. So I'm yarning over. Here's my tail for my white. I kind of lay it against the chain row. I insert my hook like normal, but then I also make sure I'm going underneath the white. I grab the yarn and then work the stitch, just like before. So I am leaving this tail of the blue behind. I'll weave that in later. Now let's work this for 6 stitches. Okay, on this 6th stitch, I'm going to just work the first step by working under, just pulling through the first loop. Stop right there. Since I introduced the light blue on that side, I'm going to keep this on that side of the work. The white is to the front of the work. This will really help to keep your yarn from twisting. You got to decide which, it doesn't matter which color, but just remember which one stays to the front, which one stays to the back. Let's work 4 stitches in the white. Okay, now let's go ahead and keep the white to the front. We have to introduce our darker blue. We just pull that through. Now, go ahead, and I promise you, it's just on this first one, it's a little tricky. We'll ignore that tail. Got to give myself a little bit more slack to work with here. I'm going to work over the blue, the light blue, and the white. Now we have to carry just across these 2 stitches, both of these, because we want them on the other side. So I'm working this stitch the same way. Again, ignoring this tail, we'll just have to weave that in later. And it won't always be in your way as the blanket grows. Here's our second one. And I promise you, it's just really tricky right here at the base row. Once the blanket got going, it was not this cumbersome. Okay, then I'm gonna definitely tuck this to the back, and I go ahead and get that one out of my way for right now. And then I'll pull through with the white. leave it behind. Now I'm back to just working over the light blue. I work 4 white stitches here. Okay, another tip that I have for you is just before you pull this up to work with it, kind of give it a nice little tug and make sure it is laying nicely across the row and it's not poking out anywhere. Okay, now let's work 6 in this light country blue, and we should be finishing the row with 11 white. So I'll go ahead and get to work on that, and then I'll show you how to turn. All right, so how'd you do? Here's my very first little bit. Now, I'm at the end of the row before, and you can go ahead and pull through with white because we'll use the white again. But before I turn, I want to make sure, and you know, obviously you'll have made a bigger swatch here, but this is where it's really handy, is to keep this yarn clipped right to where you'll need it. You'll have 3 of these down, and as the blanket grows, this won't be as cumbersome. I know I've said that, so trust me on that when it's little, but this will help when you're turning the blanket. So we always chain 2 and turn. Okay, this light blue, I'm carrying up the side, around the back of the work, and then I'll start and I'll carry it with me. All right, we're coming up to our very first color change. And so before I pull through with the new color, the light blue, I want to make sure that my white yarn is to the front of my work. Then I pull through with the light blue. I'm still just working over the white yarn that I'm carrying it through. Sometimes on these new skeins, they don't pull free so easily. Okay, hold this one to the back. Here we go. And honestly, I forgot to tell you, once I turn the blanket, sometimes if this was annoying me, I would go ahead and get them unclipped and out of my way. But anyway, get out of my way here for a second. I tell you, another tip is before I probably got 1 full section done just working on a table like this so I could keep the yarn from tangling. And then once it was big enough, I was able to kind of figure out a system to work in my lap. But ideal is to do the whole thing if you can sitting at a table, but I had to sit down. I had to get in my comfy chair. Okay, we are going to pull through with the dark blue. So I'm going to keep my white to the front. I'm going to keep my light blue to the back. This is that tail we'll weave in later. Here is my dark country blue. So if I keep one to the back, one to the front, it kind of splits them in half. And then you kind of grab each one on either side, and that kind of pulls the yarn in. And I liked that the blue was hidden, the darker blue. And then I go ahead and work the stitch. I'm working over the blue and the white. Here we go. Now I'm removing this one out of my way. I'll clip it to the blanket later. Still blue is to the back. White. This will get pulled tight later. There we go. Okay. And that is how you make this blanket. So that's one little extra step of adding in a third color. It does make it a little bit more complicated, but gosh, it is so worth that finished look. Wow. I am just, sometimes I look at these gingham and plaid blankets and I'm just amazed that it's crochet. And it just looks so beautiful. So I was able to record my my whole blanket, how I made it, how I started designing this, and I put the I did it on Instagram stories. And so I made all of those Instagram stories a highlight that you can go look at. So if you look at our Instagram page, there's little circles just above the feed, and it will say blue plaid. And tap on that, and then you'll see all the videos of how I, struggled to design this. I started off actually using the herringbone stitch, but then that was kind of zigzaggy, had a zigzag appearance. It didn't give me the straight lines I wanted. So I changed the stitch, and you can kind of just see my process. To make the plaid design, I used a website I found called plaidmaker.com. That was fun to see. And actually, if you search baby tee, you'll see this plaid design that I started. Anyway, but I did use, it was a design that was on their site. I just tweaked it a tiny bit. So anyway, make sure you work up into that last stitch. The chain twos never count as a stitch on this one. Here, let's see, we'll pull my white. Okay, one last thing is, yes, I went ahead and pulled that blue through the row, even though this is our starting row and there it wasn't. I went ahead and did it. It does show through. I know I get a lot of comments about that. Yes, it does show through, but when the blanket is finished, it really does add to the overall gingham look, plaid look, and it doesn't bother me at all. So I'm gonna show you the blanket. I think since this is obviously an advanced pattern anyway, I'm not going to show you how to change colors to this row. I think that's pretty self-explanatory for the level of crocheter who's going to be doing this blanket. And you can follow the repeats on the graph. I just was thinking about that. Okay, so let me show you this blanket all laid out. So here you go. Here you can get a better idea of what it looks like and what you're going for. So good luck on your blanket, and come and show us all the different colors that you decide to make it in. I know that they'll probably be really beautiful. So thanks for coming by. Beautiful. So thanks for coming by.